Hello, Woke Nation. In the third temptation of Jesus Christ, he was taken to an high mountain and was shown all the nations of the earth. So you don't need to be on a high mountain to see around the globe. But on a flat surface, it makes perfect sense. The enemies of Jesus are real, and Jesus has always and will always be God of all heavens and earth. Focus on him, and everything else shall be added unto you. Know the truth, share the truth. Love and mercy be upon us all.
Both the North Pole and Antarctica are militarily enforced no-fly, no-sail zones due to restrictions originating from none other than the United Nations. The same United Nations that haughtily uses a flat Earth map in their official logo and flag. In 1543, just days before his death, Freemason and Jesuit Nicholas Copernicus published his book On the Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres, which revived the old heliocentric cosmology of Pythagoras and began the so-called Copernican revolution away from a flat geocentric model and towards a global heliocentric model. Since his book claimed Earth to be a tilting, wobbling, spinning sphere revolving at breakneck speeds around a stationary sun, it was initially met with due incredulity. Copernicus always countered this by claiming his theories were merely hypotheses and shouldn't be considered truth. In his book, he even wrote, quote, "The Pythagorean teaching was founded upon hypothesis, and it is not necessary that the hypothesis should be true or even probable. The hypothesis of the movement of the earth is only one which is useful to explain phenomena, but it should not be considered as an absolute truth." Contemporaries of Copernicus, such as Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe, famously argued against this heliocentric model, positing that if the Earth revolved in an orbit around the Sun, the change in relative position of the stars after 6 months of orbital motion could not fail to be seen. Brahe wrote that the stars should seem to separate as we approach, and come together as we recede. In actual fact, however, after millions of miles of supposed orbit around the Sun, not a single inch of parallax could be detected in the stars. As even Wikipedia notes, the lack of any observable parallax was considered a fatal flaw in any non-geocentric theory. Copernicus's answer to this obvious problem was simple. He moved the stars so ridiculously far away from the Earth that even after millions of miles of supposed orbit around the Sun, no appreciable parallax could be detected. Copernicus simply needed to claim that the stars were trillions upon trillions of miles away. So then, mathematically speaking, it would indeed be impossible to detect such slight parallax. Again, contemporaries of Copernicus argued against this convenient correction of his, arguing quite rightly that if the stars were trillions of miles away, then there is no way we could see them. Backpedaling once again, Copernicus claimed the reason we could still see stars trillions of miles away was because they were not mere tiny points of translucent light in the night sky, but that stars were in fact gigantic gas balls billions of times larger than our sun. So first, Copernicus had to move the stars trillions of miles from Earth to explain away lack of parallax. And then he had to make the stars billions of times larger to account for why we should see them at all from such fantastical distances. Lastly, he offered very specific distances and mathematical equations to solidify his theory, claiming, for instance, that he had accurately calculated the sun's distance from Earth to be exactly 3,391,200 miles.